And I believe our keynote for tonight shares this dream of Alice to create the world around him. I'm guessing you might have heard him, or at least heard of him, as he has had almost 2,000 public and radio appearances in more than 20 countries. He's the founder and director of the Institute of Technology, Strategy and Innovation, and is unashamedly passionate about unlocking the benefits and opportunities of the future, and doing so in the most effective way possible by creating it. And now Absalom's Cheshire Cats, Tweedle Twins and Bandersnatchers, you have been granted your audience with the White Knight. In true Wonderland style, for business unusual, please help me welcome Pieter Geldenhuys.
Thank you very much. That's definitely one of the most original introductions I've had in my life. So thank you so much for that kind of introduction. It actually gives me a very tough challenge because I'm not going to be a knight tonight. I'm going to be I'm going to be the jester. So when I grew up, my mom said, Peter, never trust a politician, an economist, or a futurist. And unfortunately, I was a huge disappointment because I decided to be a futurist, and I disagreed with her. I said, Mom, you can trust futurists. Our predictions do come true. We just don't say where and when it'll exactly happen. So I'm going to make a couple of very, very interesting predictions tonight. And as I normally warn everyone, don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. So William Gibson actually said it far more succinctly. He said, the future already happened. It's just unequally distributed. The future isn't what we normally think it'll be. There are these weak signals in the ecosystem, and in essence, those weak signals tend to become the future far more often than what we think will happen. So I'm going to be quite honest with you tonight. No one can predict the future. No one can tell you what the future will look like. But what we can try to do is talk about possible futures, what the future could look like. And within this vast ecosystem of possibilities, we ask entrepreneurs, engineers, to take a look at what is possible, and from that, choose the future they want to create or co-create in a complex space. In essence, we want to talk about the future that should be. And that, in essence, is part and parcel of the discussion tonight. So I'm going to share with you some things about where we think the future could go into, but in essence, changing the business model and the business structure, or we call it business model reframing, that in essence is quite critical in defining the future, because you're not going to compete with anyone by doing it exactly the same way that they do. The future is truly aimed at those that change the way we do business. And then in a far more complex space, we have to change our mindset away from predictability to complex adaptive systems. But we're not going to have time to touch on that tonight. But that's a debate for another evening. So let's get started and talk about what we can expect in the next 20 or so odd years. There's a variety of key things, key megatrends that will help define what this future might possibly look like. So I've got 22 minutes left. Let's see how many of these items I can talk to. We think that one of the major changes, one of the groundbreaking developments that will happen in the next 100 years is that we as a civilization will become a type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Now, Nikolai Kardashev was an astrophysicist, and he defined a scale where he said we can look at the development of certain civilizations throughout the universe by assessing the type of energy that they utilize. And the type 1 civilization will be seen as a civilization that can harness or utilize all the energy that dissipates into the atmosphere of that planet. In essence, this civilization will be able to change the weather, live on top and below the sea. That's a type 1 civilization, maybe a multi-planetary civilization. A type 2 civilization will be able to harness all of the energy of its local star, in essence creating what we call a Dyson sphere around the star, harnessing all of the energy from the star, not only the energy that falls onto the atmosphere of the planet. and through technologies like microwaves, be able to tap that energy from these satellites. A Type 3 civilization will be able to harness energy from multiple stars. So that's a civilization that will have a footprint in multiple solar systems, at least. Very interesting. Who's heard of Tubby's star? Tubby's star, no? About 2 years ago, they found some very interesting characteristics on Tubby's star. And then about 9 weeks ago, a lot of erratic behavior from the star. And no one can really explain what that erratic behavior is about. The star is about 1,480 light years from Earth. And there is some of the astrophysicists that say this is perhaps a Dyson sphere, where that star is evidence of intelligent civilization. Now, it will be extremely difficult for us to communicate with them. It'll take about 3,000 years just to send a message, and even if we do understand what they try to tell us, if they know about us at all. But it's very interesting to take a look at Tubby's star. So Google it tonight, and this might be the first evidence of intelligent civilization in our galaxy. Nonetheless, where are we as a civilization on this scale? We are a Type 0 civilization. We burn things in order to stay alive and to sustain our civilization. And the key thing is, in the next 100 years, we believe that we might just become a Type 1 civilization. What will this mean? It'll mean that we might have to take a look at alternative sources of energy, like ITER. Who's heard of ITER? ITER, a few people, the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. They're building in France right now. They said they would go live by 2027, but last week said, no, they're slipping a bit. It'll be 2035. And what I know about construction projects, I think 2050 is a better chance. But ITER is a massive tokamak. In essence, looking at nuclear fusion rather than fission. In essence, utilizing isotopes of hydrogen to create nuclear reactions similar to what we see happening on the sun. And if we can get a little bit of energy, we need a tremendous amount of energy to use to contain the plasma within magnetic fields. But if we can get more energy out than we put in, this will become the start of a revolution in how we look at energy. What is also important is alternative. We've got the Max Planck Institute, they've got a stellarator, alternative design with the same aim in mind. But we are seeing right now a revolution in harnessing this massive nuclear reactor that we call the sun that's floating above us in the sky. And what we are seeing is that we think we can utilize this energy to power not only our homes, but also our vehicles as well. Here's an interesting coalition started about 2 months ago, and Bill Gates and about 20 of his wealthiest friends started this Energy Breakthrough Coalition. In essence, the aim of this coalition is to create an alternative ecosystem in terms of generating electricity. His aim is to make electricity so cheap that everyone has access to it. In essence, creating an ecosystem where energy is virtually free. In the same context there, where storage space and bandwidth is free once you pay a small fee, maybe energy can be free in about 20 years' time. And think of the impact of that. Think of a world where energy is free. Take a look at your personal budget, where you spend 40% of it in some cases on traveling and electricity for your house. Now cut that out. Take a look at the manufacturing of steel, where 70% or 60% of the cost of steel is linked to the energy that you utilize to melt the steel. What if that energy becomes free? How will that change the world? Do you know you can change the entire water problem by desalinating water, or even taking water that's not fit for human consumption, and through energy we can solve the water crisis. In essence, a huge amount of new developments are taking place, and it's really interesting to note the fall in costs of photovoltaic cells. A friend of mine just said that in South Africa you pay about 1 rand per watt. And we anticipate that it'll be 30 cents by 2020, South African cents, or 3 American cents. That's approximately the cost per watt. And this gives us a very clear indication that in the next 20 years, electricity can be virtually free. But as a futurist, we're always too late, because guess what happened about 3.5 months ago? Germany was so successful in harnessing wind and solar energy, they had more energy than their grids could handle. So they contacted everyone in Germany and said, please put on your oven and your aircon and just use energy. And for the first time in human history, people were paid to use electricity. That's one of the weak signals that tell us the future is going to be completely different to what it is today. So if you think electric cars is interesting today, in the near future, people are looking at using smart materials and storing the energy in the body panels of the vehicle. So if your daughter comes home and says, Dad, I damaged the battery, you better be worried. It's going to be expensive to fix. Then we see a massive revolution in green buildings, on vertical farming. There's an estimation that 70% of the world's population will live in cities by 2050. So maybe we need to change the entire equation of how people feed themselves. So in places like Tokyo, there's already buildings with solar roofs that provide all of the energy for the lighting within that building. 25% of the surface area is used for vertical farming through hydroponics. And then at the bottom, there's koi fish that get all the nutrients from this hydroponic farming. And the entire building is, in essence, self-sustaining if you like herbs and vegetables and fish as a diet. But that's a good indication of how we create self-sustaining buildings and an example of where we're heading in the future. Then these three gentlemen, Akasaki, Amano, and Nakamura, got the Nobel Prize for Physics 3 years ago for something very interesting, a blue lead. Now, why did they get a Nobel Prize for that? Because the key insight is that you use the spectrum of a blue lead and a small part of the spectrum of red leads in order to get photosynthesis from plants. That means by utilizing these grow lights, you use far less energy in order to get photosynthesis and therefore get far better yields on crops. And what we are seeing is the very strange purple lights. So if you come close to my place down in the Cape, you see this little hothouse with a little purple light, looks like an alien just landed. But that allows the plants to grow throughout the night by utilizing a very small energy source. In the next couple of years, we'll also get a far deeper understanding of the human brain. One of the questions people come up with is, will we ever be able to record our dreams? Well, 4 years ago, University in Tokyo did the following. They utilized the neural network, which worked on the same premise of looking at credit card fraud. And they trained it to look at the patterns that would emit from a human brain. And what you see on the right-hand side is what the computer predict that a person should see by looking at the TV screen. So after training it for a couple of years, or a couple of hours, this is the result that came up. So there's a very good chance that we might be able to record our dreams by 2030. Just make sure you've got a very good password for your internet account. One of the important trends we're also looking at is humans becoming the masters of their own evolution. Now, this is really a scary thought. Think of getting designer humans, where we change a person's DNA and then their offspring and their children will have DNA that were designed by other humans. This is a little kit that you can purchase right now. It's the 23andMe kit. They go for about £200, and it gives you a unique insight into your DNA. So you can simply get a kit like this, you spit into it, you send it abroad, and it gives you a very good indication of the likelihood of certain diseases you'll get in your lifetime, and also your ancestry. What percentage of Neanderthal blood have you got in you? What percentage of Khoisan, Mayan, Viking, and so forth? So your prehistory, you know, what your forefathers have done like 2,000 years ago. It'll be very interesting. I'm waiting for my results. But you can also link up this profile to Prometheus, or about 4 other DNA databases, and it gives you a complete rundown of the lifestyle that you have to focus on to be healthy based on your own DNA. So I'm doing this for me and my family, and the price point of that dropped dramatically. But other than just DNA analysis, the key question is, what can we do in order to change our DNA? Now, this is Professor Jennifer Doudna. For the last 30 odd years, people have been playing around with a CRISPR gene editing system. Professor Doudna was actually instrumental in recognizing that the Cas9 protein was really critical because it allows us to edit genes, snip DNA and replace it with another strand. And this gentleman over here had his DNA changed about 2 years ago. Matt Chappell, he's homosexual, living in San Francisco. He's got HIV, and his immune system was severely taken down. They used CRISPR-Cas9 to change his DNA so that his defenses in his body against disease were strengthened. So I don't think he's going to have children, but if he did, his children would actually be the first that would have engineered a DNA. So we're already on that journey, a fascinating journey, and it's opening up huge debate. But nonetheless, that is what will define the future. We're also seeing weird things like tobacco plants helping us fight cancer. So what they've done in Austin, Texas, is they've utilized these plants, kept it a very steady, I think 36 degrees centigrade, and they developed a process where they use bacteria, splice it with a virus like the influenza virus, and then they absorb it in the plants of these tobacco, or on the leaves of these tobacco plants. And then within 4 weeks, you can harvest 50 doses of the flu vaccine from one plant. Currently, we utilize eggs. It takes us 6 months. We get half a dose per egg. A complete revolution. So if a massive disease breaks out, you can react on it within 4 weeks. Whereas at the current process, it's simply taking far too long. But in the near future, you'll be able to extract cancer from a person's cell, deactivate the stealth mode in the cancer cells, grow those deactivated, or what is a cancer cell without stealth mode? You'll be able to put that into one of their tobacco plants, and you'll have your very own little tobacco plant. And after 4 weeks, extract the DNA, inject it back in your body, at which point your white blood cells start attacking the visible cancer cells. But at the same time, because the white blood cells morphed, will start attacking the hidden cancer cells as well, making cancer a manageable disease. And tobacco plants are used to do that. How weird is that? Nonetheless, a very interesting turn of events. What's really important is not the technology, but how we apply the technology in our ecosystem. And disruption is ahead, or is it? In essence, the disruption already happened. The world's fastest growing bank has got no money. The world's largest retailer has got no inventory. The world's largest taxi company has got no taxis. The world's biggest accommodation provider has got no real estate. So what we are seeing is a massive reconfiguration of the competitive ecosystem within economies. In the past, we had a very big challenge, because what we see in terms of human development, and specifically in terms of business models, is that it takes us about 20 years to start realizing what the true value of an ecosystem is all about. It started way back in the 1880s when the internal combustion engine came out. And one of the biggest concerns was the horse dung problem in New York City and in London. And what did a number of entrepreneurs do? They decided to put the internal combustion engine in the horse to make sure that all of the wagons and buggies are drawn. Yet, we didn't learn from that mistake. 20 years later, electricity started permeating through the textile industry, and they replaced the steam spindle, which was at the middle of all their plants, with electricity. And what was the productivity improvements after that change? Nothing. And 20 years later, someone said, why are all these workstations in these concentric circles? They said, well, you know, in the past we had a kind of a steam spindle in the middle. They said, but doesn't it make sense to change the layout of the plant so material can flow through it more effectively, seeing that energy is distributed to wherever you need it? And almost immediately, we started seeing a 10-15% increase in productivity. Right now, we live in the same movie. We live in a world where information is everywhere, and yet our business models haven't radically changed. In the next 10 years, we'll see a radical reconfiguration of our economies based on the impact of information, which is everywhere. So what we're really seeing is that in this ecosystem, normally you have zip-type laws in the industry where you have the biggest player and the second guy is half the size, and the third guy is a third of the size of the leader. And you get it in banks, in mobile operators, and so forth. Yet in the world of the internet economy, that breaks down. The main search engine is Google, and the second player has got 2% market share. The main player in economy is Uber, and the second player is nowhere to be seen. We are seeing a reconfiguration. And even in China, Uber gave up because they already knew that the main player was taking over that ecosystem. So there's a very interesting debate regarding monopolies in this hyper-connected world. And what we're also seeing really is that these three forces of processing power, bandwidth, and storage space is at the core of changing everything, because in essence, it gives a world or provides a world of abundance. If you start driving a car in the year 1970, and in 1971, you go twice the speed. So 10 kilometers in 1970, 20 kilometers in 1971, 40 kilometers in 1972. Any guess how fast your car will be traveling today in 2016? 1.4 quadrillion kilometers an hour. And that is exactly what happened in the world of electronics with processing power, bandwidth, and storage space. We have created a world of abundance. And because of this world of abundance, business models are all breaking down around us. So anticipate a loss in jobs in operators of about a third in the next 5 years. A third of the jobs in most operators will be cut because of this world of abundance. We are in essence moving into the second part of the chessboard. And in the second part of the chessboard, the models of around, or the ideas around business models are radically changing. In essence, it's about focusing on exploiting the abundance, no longer around leveraging scarcity. Now, a key question, what's the fastest animal on the planet? Any ideas? You're correct. Well, maybe not. Because put a cheetah behind this guy, or put this guy in a fast motor vehicle, and he's far quicker. You see, the moment we as humans start integrating with technology, everything changes. That individual there is more powerful than what the President of the United States was 20 years ago. Access to information is instantaneous. I can say, can someone please pick me up here outside and take me to the airport tomorrow morning? How much will it be? 120 rand. Right, pick me up, thank you. We can already do it by simply pressing a button on my smartphone. So this device helps us to be extremely powerful. So what it means is that we will get in-building navigation. No longer will we have difficulty as males finding the peanut butter in the supermarket. It'll say, beep, beep, turn left. Here's 20 bottles of peanut butter. Very nice to find. We'll get pills that we can swallow that you can share with anyone worldwide. So the acidity in your stomach can now be looked at by an expert in Germany that can link directly to your stomach. How cool is that? You will get health devices, and we'll also be able to not only control our homes but also our lives. Who's heard of Amazon Alexa? Amazon Alexa? Oy, oy, oy. Right. There's about 4 million of these sold in the United States, and it's really the first breakthrough computer that has got no screen and has got no keyboard. You just talk to it. Now, be careful, because my daughter for the last year kept on saying, Alexa, tell me another joke. In the last year, Alexa started integrating into everything in your house, also with services. You can say, Alexa, call me an Uber taxi, and it does so. You can say, Alexa, turn the lights down to blue, and it does so. You can say, Alexa, lock my front door. Alexa, talk to my car and give me my fuel consumption. All of these already happened. You can also ask her to order a pizza. Debonair's Pizza integrated into her. You can also utilize it to pay your electricity bills. 3 banks in America have integrated into that. So the moment you get your electricity bill, what's my electricity bill this month? Oh, 3,490. Okay, pay it. Done. Thank you. You can use chatbots. You can ask her to find your phone. So if you have a Raspberry Pi, you can go to GitHub, download it. 20 minutes later, you can get your phone. It switches off the silent mode, tells you where your phone is. Very soon, you'll be able to use chatbots on Alexa, saying, Alexa, get me a flight leaving Monday from Cape Town, returning Friday. I want to fly early in the morning on Monday and come back after 3. Find the cheapest flight. Within 2 seconds, you'll find the flight and say, it's going to cost you 490 Rand each way on Kulula. You said, please book it. And automatically it's deducted from your credit card. You get the boarding pass on your phone. That's within a year from now. Alexa have also been integrated into your house. So you press a button, and in more than 20 American cities, the washing powder is delivered within 2 hours after you pressing the button. And it can integrate literally with anything in your house. We are seeing artificial intelligence playing a massive role. The biggest machine learning focus is really on speech recognition, and we can see that in places like Siri, on Google, as well as with Alexa. But the second one is really interesting, video identification. So artificial intelligence is becoming a really interesting topic. You know, in the movie I, Robot, a human asked the robot, but can you compose music? Can you paint artwork? At which point the robot asked him, but can you do that? Which really asks us what we as humans are capable of. So a lot of automation is coming into our ecosystem in the next couple of years. We are seeing the first instances of the new sphere. The new sphere is what Taylor de Jardine in 1923 said was the sphere of human consciousness linking together. And we're already seeing the first instances of the new sphere. The new sphere saying, can a taxi please pick me up? Even here in Paris. I'm looking for a place to stay tonight. What's happening on Airbnb? All of us linking together, satisfying certain key needs. The first instances of the new sphere is here, made possible through this integrated, interconnected, hyper-connected world. We are not only going to link information together, but we'll be able to access information from a variety of other external sources. So the Internet of Things will change that ecosystem. And very soon we'll be able to have a little device in the palm of your hand, a spectrum analyzer, and you'll be able to scan that nice, interesting, tasty sauce and scan it, and it'll tell you what's the ingredients. So based on the molecules and their vibration, you'll be able to see if there's pesticides on an apple, if an apple tastes sweet or not. What are those funny blue pills in your drawer? Scan them and get a result. As I moved down to the Cape about 4 years ago, I went for my very first wine tasting, and instead of giving one glass, I had 8 glasses. Imagine that, 8 glasses. So I was there looking really stupid, and the people were standing over there. So I took my glass and the wine, joined them, and they said, "So Peter, what do you get on the nose?" I said, "Oh, sorry." They said, no, what do you smell? What's the bouquet that you get on the wine? Do you smell strawberry? Do you smell blueberry? I went, I said, grape? Well, that was the wrong answer. But next time I get my little SAIIE scanner, I'll just scan the wine. So yeah, just by looking at it, this is a Keynote 73. I think it is a nice lemon undertone. Anyway, a couple of cheats you can utilize, because I'll never be good at tasting wine. We know virtual reality is going to have a huge impact on us. In the next 2-3 years, you'll be able to sell cars to someone by just simply showing them what the car will look like. You'll be able, I bought this in London about 2 months ago, and I was in Iran on a conference. And as I was in Iran, I used a GitHub hack. It wasn't a part of the normal process. And I then activated my video camera, and as I was doing this, my family back home was I was streaming that onto their VR goggles at home. So my kid said, "Hey Dad, look behind you, you missed that." I said, "Oh, sorry." You're talking about that little thing over there. It was really interesting to have your family join you in a 3D or a VR environment as you're in a foreign country. This is going to change a variety of things. You'll be able to sell services to someone to say, "I want to come to Cape Town," but you can show them exactly what it looks like before they come, so they can decide where they want to go to. That technology, that's the Nokia Ozo, goes for about R1 million, but you'll be able to put those cameras, about 8 of them, around a rugby field or a soccer field. And then in the stadium, you'll be able to jump from one camera to another camera and look around you. Oh, my team is about to score right in front of me. Or you can simply sit at home and see it. Right now, big concerts are being streamed, and you can sit at home and you can be at the concert. You can go to the shopping mall, get trampled around for a bit, spill beer on yourself, put a goggles on. You'll feel like you go to a big concert. Now let's quickly take a look at how business models change, and then I'll end off. The most important thing we have to realize is that in this hyper-connected world, we can take traditional value chains, rip them apart, unbundle them, and rebundle them to create far more value. We call it business model reframing. In essence, here's an example. There's a company in Israel called Shachal Medical Services, and they focus on people with heart problems and diabetes. Now, what's the first thing you do in South Africa when you get a heart attack? You call the pizza delivery company. I go, "Just bring me a pizza." Then you call the ambulance and say, "Follow the pizza guy." Then you know they pitch up in half an hour. And if they don't, you get the pizza free. It's a win-win situation under circumstances. And they take you to a hospital where you pay 5 times more than a 5-star hotel. Sometimes they send you good doctors, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you die, sometimes you survive. You still need to pay the bill. You see, that's the business model. You come to the hospital, we charge you a lot of money, we hope you survive. What this company does is it monitors your heart rate on a continual basis, and it compares your heart rate to other people with similar heart ailments to you. The moment there's a deviation in your heart rate, and it's not looking good, they compare that heart rate with other people, and their history. And then it says, oh, this is not looking good. This guy is going to get a heart attack in half an hour. And then they dispatch an ambulance to you. The guy comes and knocks on your door and says, hello there, sir, please come with us. You're going to get a heart attack in about 20 minutes. Like, hey, buddy, I'm watching the All Black Springbok game. Something's more important than life and death. Yeah, that joke was funnier 2 years ago. Anyway, the thing is, they either stop you getting the heart attack, or if you don't, and if you do get the heart attack, you're in the best possible hands. See, everything changes. In the past, information was tightly coupled to the underlying product or the person, but now, in a world of hyperconnectivity, everything changes. Now the value chain can be completely changed, and you can completely have access to every bit of information wherever you are in the world. Everything changes. The time when you get the heart attack, the place where you get the heart attack, the location of machines, the constellation, as well as the actors who's around you. Everything changes in a hyper-connected world. In Tesco, you scan products as you put them into the trolley, and on checkout you simply weigh them. So that changes the entire business model. We're seeing the same happening with the best travel jacket in the world. Who's heard of it? You can blow up its collars, pick a place for your passport, place for your iPad, place for your phone. How many of these do you think they've sold up to now? Close to 50,000. How many are they manufactured? None. It's a Kickstarter campaign. So you go out to the market and say, tell us what you want to improve on the jacket, but pay us your fee and you'll be the first person getting it. And if we reach our target of 10 million, we'll start manufacturing it. The entire ecosystem is turned on its head. Fascinating new business models are emerging. I don't have time to take you through the wonderful video sequence. I ran completely out of time, my apologies. But the key message is this, that the most important thing you have to realize is that all of these futures are possible. I only talk about what could happen, but it's people like you, the engineers, this small part of society which has got the intellect and the training to fundamentally shape and change our future. You are the people that define what the future should look like. I can't wait to see what you can accomplish. Thank you so much for your time.